Welcome to the Unearthed Man podcast, the journey of becoming a conscious man, hosted by Milvo. Hey all, Milvo here, and welcome to episode 31 of the Unearthed Man podcast. To kick off, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which we work and gather, and their continuing connection to land and waters. I pay respect to elders past, present, and emerging. I pay tribute to the diversity of First Nations peoples of Australia and their ongoing culture. Now, thanks to everyone who provided feedback on the episode last week with Aleki Schaumkel. I'm still very grateful for Lockie's openness and for the wisdom that he shared. I wish him all the best with the work he's doing with the FIFO crew. FIFO workers have one of the highest suicide rates, so anytime he can provide love and support for a man that enables him to turn this life around is definitely well worth it. So, on to my listeners. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, then welcome aboard. If you're one of my regular listeners, then welcome back. I really appreciate your ongoing support. If you're looking to know more about The Unearthed Man, then you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Now for today's episode. Like many of my guests, I first met today's guest at the Bridge Experience workshop in Brisbane that he attended with my wife, Jackie. 2 weeks later, I found myself in his company again at Unleash the Beast. The one thing I noticed about him was his energy, his charisma, and above all, his beautiful open heart. He would be the first to admit, though, that this may not have always been the case. Since then, we have participated together on King's Court and twice on Sam Lewis's Initiation Back to Self program. His bio on Instagram sums him up perfectly. Love and kindness is a great gift to live daily with to share. Makes every day beautiful. Respect, love, integrity. His connections through Conscious Man Brotherhood, a men movement, and men's medicine, and is seen regularly facilitating meditation sessions on the Gold Coast. I simply just love this man. Welcome to the Unearthed Man podcast, Aleki Schaumkel. Hey, Aleki.
Hey, thank you very much for the invitation, Milvo. So very blessed. Very blessed.
It's great to have you on here. And I remember, as I said, you may not have remembered my connection when you did Bridge, but certainly Jackie was like, that guy's Aleki. He's such a beautiful, open-souled man, and and I knew that you were missing out on extreme leadership the week after because you had your daughter's wedding. So you put family first, which was such a beautiful thing to do. And then, I was so happy that you were one of the 50 men that jumped on and did Unleash the Beast afterwards because, I just knew that was only going to be enriching for my experience. So ever since then, I've loved connecting with you and I've loved getting to know you and I've just loved watching your journey. So I'm so excited to have you on board.
And thank you very much. And that Unleash the Beast is still like the top of the list of my workshop. As a participant, I haven't done anything to beat it. It turned me inside out.
It changed my life. I wouldn't be doing this podcast if I hadn't turned up for those 2 days. And what I got out of that was knowing that 50 men or 49 other men loved and supported me unconditionally without knowing anything about me. And so me going, wow, if 49 strangers can just hold me up and physically hold me up because that's what took place and just go, we've got you, brother, then my role now is to do that for the rest of the men in the world and sit there and hold the rest of the men up and know that if any time they fall, if they look down, that I'm underneath them, I'm carrying them, I've got them until they're ready to get back on their feet. And, it was just such an amazing experience.
Yeah, it sure was. Man, what an experience. And you, a beautiful man as well, sharing your journey as well, that's inspiring as well.
Yeah, no,
and your energy as well at the workshop.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I part of my trade is, I'm all in. So as soon as I knew that was on, I'm like, yep, I'm all in and I'm letting go. But my intuition said that's what I had to do. And it's probably the first time in my life I've actually let go and just totally trusted my intuition. And it's amazing what happens when you do that. Like that, you drop the barrier, you drop the mask, and you just let it all happen. And so that was just an awesome experience.
Oh man, I was exactly the same. That's what I was committed to before I walked in the door. I said, okay, 100% in. I'm not, I'm going to put my hand up. I'm going to talk a lot. I'm going to partake in everything, and I'm not going to hold back. And I said, I'm here for me today and also for the brothers that were there. So
Yep.
I feel blessed that I played full out. And that's where the magic is, when you play full out.
That's right. Exactly. You're absolutely spot on. When you give your A game and you just commit to the A game. And it's really funny because, you and I have done Sam's like initiation back to self a couple of times. And the key thing about that is to give your A game, you've actually got to surrender.
Yes.
Like you've actually got to do less to give more. And and that's what you actually learn. Like stop trying, stop forcing, just drop it all, surrender, and actually try and do less, and more comes from it. And beauty appears in front of you and everything else. And once you learn that little trick, it is the world just opens up in front of you.
Yeah, I got that for myself as well, and it's so effortless. Just being vulnerable and just not holding on to anything and just let it be.
It's a liberating experience.
100%, 100%.
So let's then go on a bit of a journey, because there's always a reason why we end up in these places. I've on my podcast too, I opened up and told my whole story about from my childhood all the way through, and porn addictions and sex addictions and angry and all these things that took place. Alcohol addiction and so forth. So what is the Aleki journey? Like, what does this look like? You're now in the Gold Coast, but you're in New Zealand, originating from New Zealand. And so there's obviously a journey that's got you here. So would you do us the honor of opening up and let us know what that looked like for you?
Okay, thank you. I was born in Tonga, born at home, not in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And 3 years old, we migrated to New Zealand because Grandpa, he had leukemia. So he had therapy in New Zealand. So all the family, all the cousins, all moved over with him.
Oh, wow.
So that's how we ended up in New Zealand. And I've spent 22 years in New Zealand. Did all my schooling there, and I moved here in 95, and I've been here 26 years now. So I call myself an Aussie, been here that long, all my kids are born here.
Yep.
But just growing up as a little kid, I have 3 sisters and 2 brothers. I'm in the middle, so there was also the middle child syndrome.
That's me. I know where you're coming from. Yep.
Yeah, I know, and they did mention it in the Unleash the Beast, all the black sheeps here today. Because I ended up being that rebel, being that middle child. Because where I come from, the older son, he's like the prince. And then my younger brother, he's the baby. So who's left in the middle? So, I remember as a young kid, and this is only doing more work because most of the stuff I had suppressed, I was bullied and bashed from a very young age. I was bullied till I left school.
Okay.
So I wasn't always this 6'1", 115 kilo person. I was like the smallest in my class, about second or third smallest in every year that I attended school. And just getting bullied from kids. Even women used to beat me up. Oh,
Oh, wow.
girls beat me up. If it wasn't them, it was, teachers pulling my ear or
Yeah.
giving,
Okay.
or giving me a slap. Um, just all that stuff, being bullied for so long. And at the same time, I distance myself from my mother at the same time. And just after doing my workshop last year, it really took me back to the exact date and scenario that happened when I started turning away from her. I was a young kid and being bullied, and I was in my bedroom thinking to myself, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? And I was like 9 years old.
Oh, wow.
And I went to ask my mother, and she was directly outside of my room. It was like so real. This all came up in breath work. And I walked straight up to her. She was sitting on the sofa having a cigarette. And I said, hey, Mum, can you really help me? Protect myself. Can you take me to boxing or take me to kung fu? Because I used to watch those movies as a kid. Or she turned around puffing a cigarette, was, fuck off, you little crybaby.
Oh, wow.
And that day, as a little kid, you interpret it, not being protected also as not being loved.
Yeah.
So that day, I never trusted or even, I distanced myself from my mother ever since then. And it was only about, I think, last year when I fully forgave her, and it was complete. I had forgiven her over time, but it wasn't fully.
Yep.
But last year, just before she passed, I fully forgave her. And just in that, I was, her, being distant. I went around looking for love in the wrong places, I went to my neighbors, and that neighbor became like my mum, and aunties, and I saw them as a mother figure opposed to my mother. And no matter what, when you've turned, no matter what that person says, you're not going to receive it.
Yeah. All we ever want as kids is to know that we're loved, and
100%.
and that love leads to protection. And when you have that situation or those incidents in your life with your parents where you feel that that's just not there, that's really tough.
Oh, 100%. And the bullying still carried on, and as a little kid, I ended up fighting because no one else was going to protect me. Yes. Even my older brother, he was a wuss, Okay. He was a mummy's boy, so he didn't know how to fight, and my little brother wasn't born then. So it was just me on my own, and I just said, you know what, I'll have to fight. Even if I get my ass kicked, I'm not going to lay down to these bullies, And I got my ass kicked for so long. Oh, man. But one thing that I, as a little boy, I learned really quick, and it's a wicked trait, because I took it into my adult life, was getting my ass kicked so much and being beaten up, even as a little kid, about 10 years old, I had my teeth punched out, and I learned, I think it was when I left intermediate school, I just said, you know what, getting my ass kicked all the time, I better get them before they get me.
Yeah.
And that was a wicked trait, because even if someone said something, I'd already punched them, because I was beaten up for so so many years, it was like my protection. Like I can feel it coming. So someone will go, oh, who the fuck are you? Man, I'd already punched them in the face. That was how quick, because my past experience, that would lead to them bashing me. So I learned pretty quick that it's either me or you, and it's not me.
The offense is the best form of defense, and that's your protection mechanism up front. And
and just growing up, my dad, I also see now, and I only got this when my mum passed away last year, because my focus was on my mother. That, oh man, I hated her guts for like 4 decades. And I saw my dad was like my hero. But after my mum passed, I had so much stuff pouring in. My dad's not my hero. He was only a little bit better than my mum. That's why I saw him as my hero.
Okay.
And I saw that my dad, he was my teacher of the violence, because the way he used to beat me. And I remember one day when he bit me so bad, he even stomped on me.
Oh, wow.
And I couldn't move the next day. I couldn't move. I couldn't even go to school. And even when he'd use like the extension lead, the power cord on me. Oh man, I used to go to school with stripes on my legs, and they fucking hurt, and what was worse, my my older brother, when my dad used to, he this was pretty fucked up too, like my dad was going, okay, I'm gonna give you a hiding now. And then my older brother will go, Dad, do you want me to run and get the washing machine hose or the extension cord? So I went, this guy, I said, this guy, and we've never had a good relationship as well, we're, just with all that stuff, and just knowing my dad taught me all that stuff. Man, I when that came up for me, I just woke and said, what the fuck, I thought this man was teaching me, love, and that, man, he taught me all the wicked traits that I have, because that's how everything he used to beat me with, I used to beat on people who bullied me.
Yes.
I'd beat them the same way or even worse. So, I remember one night I went with a friend. We were still at school, and we got jumped by about 12 drunk Tongan men.
Okay.
Because there was like a local dance at our church hall. We got jumped. And we got bashed so bad that I woke up in hospital and I still couldn't open my eyes.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
That's a beating.
I was only 17 and I got beaten up by these men. Yeah, it was that bad. My cousins told me there was like 9 or 8 cop cars there, paddy wagons, the whole lot, because it was that bad. Yeah. And, when I came home, I couldn't open my eyes, and the police took me home and they knocked on the door. I'll never forget this. All I heard my mum was going, "You stupid boy." And then my dad, I could hear him. All he did was laugh. He just laughed. And that really came up for me. And I went, Yeah. And I just said, man, I look at it now and go, man, you guys don't know. You guys have treated me so different, because I know when my older brother and my younger brother, something happens to them, oh man, they're the first ones there, the big hugs, and I didn't get any of that.
Yeah.
You know, so I already knew where I stood. And as, you know, I knew where I stood with my family, and all I was doing as while I was at high school was applying for my visa to leave New Zealand. So I've been trying to come over to Australia since 87.
Right. Okay.
And it took me like another 8 years to get here.
Yeah.
But that's when I changed citizenship, because I've been there for over 20 something years, you know. So I just changed to New Zealand citizenship, and that just allowed me to come over freely without applying for a visa, because I had a Tongan passport.
Ah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. And the best move I ever made.
Yeah.
But I was trying to come over since 87, and me knowing now the stuff that I know now, that because I also got married when I was 22.
Okay. Yeah.
And you know, I look at it now after doing the work, and I was going, man, I only married to please my parents.
Yeah. Okay.
I only married just so my parents could accept me, because I was the first one to get married. No one was getting married.
Yeah. Okay.
My older siblings weren't getting married. And I said, you know what? Maybe mum and dad will accept me more if I get married, and also give them grandkids, and, you know. And, you know, when you do things not with love, it always turns to shit.
It can be, yes.
Yeah, like I moved here in 95. I got married in 93. So 2 years later, I moved straight up to a little town called Tully in North Queensland, just working on the bananas there with my cousins, and then moved up to Cairns, and I stayed there for 3 years.
Okay. Yep.
I had brought my wife over 97, and we had our son, you know, Tyler. Then I had my girls all down in Sydney, and I was with her for about 14, 15 years with my first wife. But I look at it now, I was going, what the hell was I doing? You know, 7 years was okay, and the other 7 years was trying to find a way out.
So the question I've got in all that is, and you've touched on this constant seeking for, you know, love and validation. So, you know, you leave at 22, and, you know, you've had pretty much since 9 through to 22 of just, you know, violence, you know, being abused, you know, by parents, you know, being dismissed by parents. How does that play out for you as a 22-year-old up to, you know, I'm not sure what your age is, Aleki, as far as I'm concerned. You could still be 27, to be honest, mate. But,
51 this year.
Yeah. So how does that play out, like, then in that next, you know, 20 to 30 years of your life? Like, what traits? What does that look like for you? I know you're married and you're going through this with the kids. What does that look like for you then, knowing you've only sort of been brought up and known one way, which is potentially violence and defense and all these sorts of things? How does that work?
Yeah, like the my relationship didn't have with my first wife didn't have any physical violence. It was mainly verbal.
Yep.
Yeah, and I just didn't agree with a lot of stuff that she wanted. Like when we moved. Because I've been moving around from Cairns, then to Gold Coast, and then down to Sydney. And when we got to Sydney, she wanted to stay there. And I said, this place is too big. This place is doing my head in. Let's move back where it's not overcrowded. And she just kept staying there. And, you know, we had an agreement that she'll do all the stuff at home, you know, and I'll go and work. I'll, you know, do the long hours and stuff just so to make ends meet and get extra stuff, because she travelled back to New Zealand regularly to her parents in New Zealand. But just over time, I look at it now and I own my part of it. Because when you don't do work on yourself, it's just a blame game. Start blaming each other. And I blamed her for, like I used to get real shitty coming home. I've just done 10-hour shift, sometimes 11 or 12 on the building site. And when I come home, dinner's not made, the washing's not done, and the kids haven't been fed. And I just got sick of the arguing, and I just ended up just cooking my kids' dinner, bathing them before they go to sleep, do my own washing. She was complaining about I had too much dirty washing from all the work, you know, that I do. And I said, that's okay. I also was working another job as well on Saturday nights. So after those long hours as well, and I was also playing football.
Right.
I got paid to play rugby.
Okay.
So that was like another part-time job as well, you know, and you know, and I just said, hey, look, you want to go to New Zealand and go to all these other places for holidays and stuff, but they don't just fall out of the sky, you know. So I don't mind hard work. I've always worked hard. I've always worked hard since I was a kid. So hard work's not new to me. And just not having that, you know, that those agreements we put in place met, that really turned me away from her as well. That she wasn't doing her part, I was doing my part, but you still want to go on holidays. And yet, you know, coming home and having to do more work, you know, washing my own clothes and that. So, yeah, for about 7 years, you know, I think in the last 3 or 4 years, I was looking to kill myself.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was looking to, you know, I couldn't explain why this woman was happy. But I know now. I was giving her what I want, giving her what she, I was thinking that, giving her what she wants, but I didn't give her what she needed.
Okay, yep.
And yeah, I was just feeling depressed at work, and even a few times, I was just toying with the edge of these tall buildings we were working at, you know, they're like 40, 50 levels, you know, and I just keep toying with the edge, you know. And I remember one day I put on a harness, and I was toying with the edge, but sometimes I just lean forward knowing that the harness has got me.
Oh, wow.
And I was leaning to the edge, and just this one time it told me, don't do it. And I was going, no, I want to feel it, you know. I was trying to debate the voice in my head telling me don't do it. And lucky I didn't, because I turned around, it wasn't hooked up to it wasn't hooked up. And I said, man, if I did that, I was gone.
You were gone, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, because I was toying with jumping and also visualizing my kids without a dad. You know, was I have my son and 3 young daughters at the time. Yeah. And, you know, I just keep playing scenarios in my head, you know, these kids that I've brought into the world and I've walked away from them, you know.
Yep. Okay.
Not walked away, but leaving the planet.
Yes.
Leaving their life fully. So
what comes up for you, like when you're looking at that? What's the emotional? What's coming in for you there? Is that the strong will to say I'm not going to leave them here, or is it like are they going to be better off if I'm not here? I mean, where was your mind in relation to that element?
Yeah, because I love them so much, you know, it kind of brings me back.
Yeah.
And that's who I live for.
Yeah.
And you know, just neglecting my father's duty of raising my kids till they're at that ripe age for them to take over themselves.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So with your kids, so you've talked to not having that mother and father relationship that you would had. Often, there's 2 ways that goes when we have our kids. We as much as we go, we're not going to be like our parents. I swore I was never going to be like my mum and dad. Swore I'm never going to be like my mum and dad. And I mean, there's no violence in our house. I mean, there's always threatened violence. And yes, we get the wooden spoon every now and then, but, not to the point, as you've said, with cords and different things. And then when I look back now and how I brought up my kids, I'm like, fuck, I was just like my parents. It was all very functional relationship. There was no hugging, there was no kissing, there was yelling, there was arguing. So all the things, when I say I don't want to be like my parents, as much as I thought I was cool and we did all these great trips and everything else, the one thing that my parents never gave me, which I never gave my kids, was the love and emotion that they deserved from a parent. It was rule. Yes. I was the tyrannical, king, rule by threat and rule by, fear.
100%.
Oh, fuck. So, and I've had those conversations now with my kids. Are like, sorry for fucking up your life and, putting you in a situation where you didn't probably get all you needed and, looking to remediate that. So how did that, what was yours look like for you? Because that's certainly very challenging from, what you were brought up with, and you've escaped and you've then got married, but how does it look like with you and your kids? And
it's totally different now because of all the work I've done on myself and passing it on to my kids. Man, I'm very blessed, but I just look back and go, wow, I used to just treat my kids the way my parents treated me, finding the favorite, getting them to do this, do that without showing, the discipline, the yelling and the hurry up, all those stupid things that I was conditioned with, growing up as a kid. I was just passing it on to my kids. And I think the biggest blessing was finding myself and doing the work, because fuck, I love my kids now, and I can look into their eyes and hug them, and one thing that I got that my parents didn't do was listen. And see me. Man, I see all my kids and I hear them. I don't do what I used to do. What my dad did was, hey, my way or the highway. Listen, and I'm right, you're wrong, you're the little boy, and and this cultural bullshit that I've also let go of respect your elders and all this stuff, and go to church, you'll be a better person. I said, how about having a new culture where you just respect everyone?
Yes.
Why just the elders? And I said, what about church? Jesus didn't go to church. and they hate that one because it's the truth.
Yes.
Because I said, that's your biggest cop out. You guys are too busy. Because I grew up with the church and I knew there was something wrong with it. And I was always looking elsewhere to fill my cup. And I'm just glad I found it now, a couple of years ago. And, the cop out, and I saw what I was doing at church, that there was too much reading, listening, and talking about it.
Yeah.
And no one's out there actually exercising the work. I said, Jesus was never in church. He was out there doing the work. And you guys want to be Christ-like, and my parents hated when I talk like that because I said it's the truth.
Yeah. The biggest, if you want to see the biggest contradiction of religion, how it works, you watch what happens in the car parks as everyone's trying to drive and leave. There's no one letting anyone there. They're all cutting each other off. Like they've just gone and spent an hour, as you said, listening and talking and pretending to be there, right? Yeah. And then they hop in their cars and they're, no one's letting anyone in and they're all cutting each other off and they're all angry because they got to race off to Sunday lunch or whatever it is. And you go, come on, guys. Like, I think you've just missed the point.
Yeah. Because my mum, when I moved here, my mum, every conversation, remember, go to church. And she was saying that till she left, till she passed. She was saying that, remember to go to church. And I said, I don't need to go to church. I said, I speak with the higher power daily as soon as I wake up, you know? And yeah, they didn't get it because for myself, I see where my culture is in Tonga, where church, it's more like a tradition now. It's not a religion. The religion's lost its value because they're not exercising fully. You're either in it or you're not.
But I'd like to take a step back and go, okay, what did Tonga look like 300 years ago before the missionaries turned up and preached about this Jesus and this God? Like, how they wouldn't have been this point, right? How grounded would they be?
Yeah.
And how connected would they been to the islands and the water and the fact that they were fishing people and they were journeymen and journeywomen and like they knew every tree, every branch.
They were connected. To light. They were connected to the earth. The land, people, and they and I see it as just the cultures all around the place has been dismantled by the religion that's come in, and it's like kind of brainwashed them from. It's disconnected them from the earth.
Yes, because the thing when we talk through it, and like same as I kicked off, just acknowledging, the traditional custodians and the land, the element of respecting your elders was because they held the culture. They held the song lines, the dream time, the stories, the myths, so each indigenous culture talks to their spirits and their spirit animals and what happens when they go, and so that's why you respected them, because they were the owners and the custodians of thousands of years of how this culture evolved and got to.
Yes.
And the thing that I'm really struggling with at the moment, and this is an identity thing that I'm going through now, is how bastardized the Westerners have now made this world, and how much we've removed this sense of connection, true culture, storytelling. As I said, in Australia, it's the song lines, the dream time that actually says how we evolved and how we got here.
Yes.
And so this religion stuff, is, is just manipulative.
Yeah. Like I get a lot of like my family, like they're stuck with the church and they think it's the only way. And when I do work and helping, healing other brothers and sisters out there, they call it evil. And I just said, if it bears, you'll know it's God's work by the fruit it bears.
Mm.
And that just shuts them up because I said, God is everywhere. Don't think just because he's sitting in a church waiting for you. I said, God is everywhere. Don't think that you go to church, you think you're better than everyone else. And I just said, man, there's people out there who have never gone to church, but they're doing the work, of loving people, helping people, You don't have to go to church to learn to be a decent human being.
But the one underlying thing, correct, the one underlying thing again that they miss is that when, let's just pick Jesus, many other religions around the world, Buddhas and everything else, right? That person, the main thing about that person is that he had unconditional love for everybody.
100%.
And that's the message that people have now lost. He never said, oh, I'm going to deal with this or I'm going to deal with that. He said, I have unconditional love and I will go and I will work at all levels and just be there for people. And that's the fundamental message, which is about how do we now as humans move beyond our egos and our conditioning and our belief and just go, let's just not judge anybody. There is no difference between the person that might be homeless in the street, and I'm going to go extreme, and the person that drops the bombs, right?
Yeah.
They are still human beings. We've just got to understand what happened in their life to lead them to get to this point. They never chose that when they were a baby being held in their mum's arms.
Yeah.
They never said, fuck it, I'm going to become homeless. Fuck it, I'm going to become, a murderer. I'm going to become this. Like there is something that happened in their life. Now, for some of us, and like as you said, you've just talked through, a really challenging upbringing, right? Now you could be in jail now. You could have continued down a path of violence and aggression and, got into the really bad areas and people would be condemning you. But you think, but let's listen to Aleki's story. Like he may not really have had a choice because he just there was some point in your life where you just able to avoid that step, but it wouldn't have been far from a logical step for you to have taken, given what you've discussed.
Yes.
And so in us having that and having that compassion now for others going, and that's what I look around, they go, how did you get here? I'd like to know what happened and how can I help you? Because this couldn't have been your choice in life.
Yeah.
The universe will say that was always meant to happen. And the universe will say, that probably is the lesson they needed to learn in this life. And that's a whole different conversation. But what do we actually do there? So, yeah.
Like I started looking for other churches when I remember I was about 11 years old. I was still a little kid and I was going, man, my church sucks. I'm going to go and check out this Mormon church. And I went to the Mormon church and went there a few times and I said, no, nothing here. Then I went to a Methodist church and looked there. Just went to all these different churches, the Assembly of God and these New Age Christians. And I was just going round and round and round. And I said, you know what? I can't find it. I can't find what I'm looking for, something that was going to draw me to keep going back like an addiction, like I have with the work now. It's like always wanting it. And all it is that my direct connection with God himself.
So the question is, and where did you find that, Aleki? Where did you find that connection?
I think I found that connection just in my journey. When I separated from my second wife, and I started. I'll go back a bit so everything makes sense. About that 7 years when I was dreading my first wife, the last 7 years I was dreading, and I was putting it out there. I was going, please God, send me an angel to save me from this, because I'm ready to kill myself. I don't want to be here anymore. So please send me an angel. Send me an angel. And then it took like a couple years, and a woman came into my life who was my second wife. And I left that marriage, and also me with my low self-esteem and not connected, and just my connection, my conditioning, that I didn't also know how to communicate.
Right.
So my communicate was shit, and I just ended that marriage and started a new relationship. So, and my new partner then had a son and a daughter as well. So right now I've got 6 kids now.
Right.
And I feel very blessed because they were very young too, and they taught me a lot about myself as well. And just going through that relationship, 2 years later, we moved in, got married, because she's from Tasmania.
Okay.
She moved up, left everything there, moved up to live with me. But little did I know that I haven't healed or fully completed my last relationship. So whatever was happening in my past relationship was playing out in my new relationship. And at the same time, it was very toxic, because she just come out of a 10-year marriage as well. So she had baggage as well. So even though everything was good, we knew how to love each other, how to treat each other. But when our stories got the better of us, I don't know how we're still alive. I don't know how we're still alive, because we did stupid things,
Okay.
We did stupid things to each other, and that just carried on. But what held us was our love for each other's children.
Yes.
Our love for each other, but it was still very toxic. And we married in 2009. That was like 5 years after I met her. And we moved up to the Gold Coast. And I still had a lot of stuff, and also me, I still brought in my little boy, unhealed boy inside of me. He couldn't speak.
Yes.
Or speak what I wanted to say. So there was a lot of unsaid stuff, I do all my talking in my head. and it ended up we separated a few times, just because of the arguing, and ends weren't met, and then we'd have a really good time. I remember I went to Mackay, and I had a contract there for 12 months, so we made a good money there. But when I came back, the work dried up, so I was unemployed. Okay. And I think for any woman, security is gold for them, if they feel that, but the financial stress of not having to work. just came back onto us, and we were just at each other, clashing every day. And I said, you know what, I'll go to Sydney. This is where everything happened. I said, okay, I'll go to Sydney and I'll do a contract there. I'll work there, and then start organising our holiday. We're going to go on a boat cruise to the islands, So I went down to Sydney to work, and I said, okay. It was my old boss's older brother.
Yep.
He was running the job, and he said, hey, come down, work for me. Little did I know that this would be the turning point in my life. This construction site that I went there, this is the unconscious Aleki going in and not trusting the energy that I was getting from the job.
Right. I
would just go in unconsciously and just listen to my head. Yeah, come on, let's just work. Let's get some money. Let's blah, blah, blah. And I walked onto the site, and there was that many ethnic groups in there, and I could feel the tension. I could feel the tension in the air. There were even bikies. There were bikie gangs working on the job site. And instead of Stanley lives, you see them on their pouches with bloody smaller Crocodile Dundee knives. And I went, oh, wow. This is, I see something's not right here. And even the safety guy, I knew him. He was ex-Comanchero. And he had a gun, a handgun in his pants. And I said, why are you doing? Why have you got a gun? And he goes, Aleki, it's either me or them. Oh. And I went, fuck. And I said, what the hell have I come to? And while we were working there, we how they paid us was all the contractors would go to someone's apartment, and then you get a little Arab guy coming in with a backpack. We're sitting around the table, and he just tips the bag upside down, and there's like a couple 100,000 cash there. And he goes, okay, Aleki, here's yours. Okay, here's yours. There's yours. And I said, where did you? Don't ask. Just count your money. And as soon as I count it, you just give them thumbs up and they're gone. You won't see them again. And that was how we got paid every week. And this was about 2 months before Christmas. And I told my wife, I said, hey, let's go on our holiday. Let's get out of here. And she was still stressing out about the finances. So she was disconnected as well. And we had a great trip. We went I flew over to New Zealand with the kids from here, and then picked up my kids in New Zealand, and that's where the boat cruise disembarked. And we went to Tonga, so it was so good. We just got there for my niece's wedding. Oh, she lives in Melbourne, but they all flew over to Tonga to get married because their grandma was there. So it was really good. And then met all the family, and then went off to another island, my home island. So we met all my family there as well. And then we went to Fiji. Man, we had a great time. But I could still feel my wife, there was something going on.
Yep.
And when we, about one day out from New Zealand, arriving back in New Zealand, I had a phone call from one of my leading hands. And he said, Aleki, our pay's not in, because the pay lady didn't pay them. So it made me call the pay lady. Hey, what's going on? She said, oh, they said they were going to put the money in the bank. Nothing's in there. And I went, oh my God. and then my wife overheard it. So she started stressing out, and because all she could see was, oh, we're going to get kicked out of our home. Oh no, I can't pay my bills. Oh, I can't pay this. And I said, don't worry, we'll get this. So we got off in New Zealand, in Auckland. And then my son said, Dad, I want to come back and live in Australia. And I said, are you sure? Because I don't want to argue with your mother to come back to Australia. And he goes, yeah, Dad, I'm ready to come back. And he was 15. So that's the age you're allowed to make that choice for yourself. And I didn't need consent from the mother. Mm-hmm. And I tried to ring her a few times and she didn't answer. So I said, okay, son, I've already booked your flight. Get on the plane. So he flew back with my my stepson and daughter. So they all came back together. And we came a few days later, and I flew straight down to Sydney to chase this money. When I got there, no one didn't have an idea. Everyone wasn't being paid.
Okay.
But I knew each time the bikies came onto the job, they'd always walk out with like a big envelope in their back pocket, you know. And I said, hey, what's going on here? You guys paying them and not paying us for doing the work. And it was about 80,000 that he owed me. And going through all this time, you know, and also the stress, my wife left me.
Right.
And here I was in another city. I was in Sydney, away from my home. I was staying with my brother. And my little brother was going through stuff too, so he asked me to move out. And I just said, okay. I said, I'll go stay with my friend down the road, but really I didn't. My friend, his house was a drug house. So I just ended up living in my car. That's when I ended up living in my car for about 4 months.
Really?
Yeah. And thank God it was in Bondi. Because in Bondi, it allowed me to have a wash every day.
Yes.
Talk to people. That was the main thing, talking to people. And also exercising daily. Exercising, I'd just kept my sanity.
Yeah.
Exercising, and I started reading. And I've never read a book in my whole life, but I read the whole book. It was Louise Hay. I Can Heal My Life.
Yep.
And I read that book, and man, that book kind of opened me up. And that's when I started working on myself. But a few times I'd go in and out of it, you know, because of my hurt and also, you know, my own insecurities popped up. I was going, what if my wife meets someone else and blah, blah, you know, everything just plays out in your head and go, what if my wife is doing drugs or doing, you know, everything plays in your head. And
all the stories.
Yeah, and then we had a big argument one day, and it was just about, you know, the financial stress. And I one night I just sat in my car looking out into the ocean. And I just started crying, and I just said, man, I should leave here, you know. So I got out of my car and I was just walking towards the edge of the cliff. It was about 100 meters away,
Okay.
I was just walking. It's those high cliffs at Mackenzie Point in Bondi.
Yep.
Right on the edge there. I just got there and I just cried, and I was ready to go.
Oh, wow.
All I kept hearing was the ego, jump, motherfucker, jump, you motherfucker. And that was ringing in my head till I heard this voice of my youngest daughter just echoing and faded out there. The ego was going, where's my dad? Where's my dad? And if it wasn't for that voice, man, I wouldn't be here.
No.
I just sat down on that edge of the cliff with and just bloody sobbed, like a little baby. But that was the little boy in me that was crying.
Yes. Yep.
And man, I just look back now and go, man, that was the turning point. Now I revisited that place 2 years ago. This time I wore a harness because I have everything to live for now.
Yeah. Yes.
And I'm not going to do that to my children or the people that I love.
Yeah.
But when I went there, I had no harness, nothing, and a lot of people had jumped there also. And just my journey around Bondi, I saw a lot of people die as well.
Okay.
I saw a surfie when I was walking around the bay, because I go for my long walks and I listen to podcasts, and just seeing the ambulance putting the blanket over the surfer on the rocks, and no one else is there. He was surfing alone, and there's no crowd. And it made me think, going, that poor man didn't say goodbye to his loved ones.
Yes.
No one knows he's already left this world, this life, and how precious time is. And we take it for granted and think that we've got tomorrow. And he might have had plans to go somewhere after surfing, but that was the end of his story. And when I walked back another morning, so I went to pick up my brother, I saw it again, just a man lying and a man just dead in the middle of the road. On one of the side streets, and the police were taping their area off.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just looking how precious life is, and we don't know when our numbers drawing,
Correct. Yeah.
And it's really made me open up to going, man, tomorrow's not promised. So I just started working on myself, reading, and it wasn't 100%, me doing the work on myself, because it was the company that I kept.
Yes.
So it's not like now, the last 3 years, I'm surrounded by conscious men.
Yes.
And women, and just doing the work, and it's made me stronger, my connection as well and also my beliefs, and just doing the work to let all stuff go, I even with that, when I was in Sydney, getting ready to jump the cliffs, I said, I better go get that money. I better go get that money off these guys. And when you've lost everything, you've got nothing else to lose. Yeah. And I rang up this guy and I said, I was with my boss, and they owed my boss $250,000. They only owed me 80, and 80 was everything to me. And I rang this guy up and I just said, hey, have you got my money? I'll come today and get it. He said, fuck you cocksucker, you motherfucking scumbag. I owe you nothing, you piece of shit. And I just smiled, eh? I just said, okay, I'll see you soon. And I hung up the phone. And I drove from Bondi all the way to Parramatta. That's where the office was. Mm. And all I could think was all the different scenarios how I'm going to kill him.
Right.
That's how I was going, do I punch him in the throat? Do I break his legs? And this how evil that I went down that track was. I wanted to snap all his limbs so his family could carry him to the shitter.
Mm.
That's how evil I was what he did to me and my family and every other worker, not paying them. There's that flow-on effect. He was there too, and guys asked him, hey, when are you going to pay me? And he just laughed and said, I owe you nothing. And I just went, man, this guy's a scumbag.
Yeah.
So all I keep thinking was driving to Parramatta, all the different ways how I'm going to kill him. And when I got to the office, it was about 5 o'clock, so everyone was leaving, and the lady said, can you just wait in the lobby? I said, okay. And I saw him running around the back through the glass door, running around the back. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go and get him. And all I was thinking about was killing him instead of getting the money. Killing him, because I said, nah, this guy won't give me the money. I'll just kill him. And when I burst through the door, I said, hey, where's my money? And he stood up with his chest out. He stopped and he was going, who the fuck are you? Until I said my name, Aleki. It's like he saw the devil.
Yep.
Because he said, shit, this is the guy that just spoke to me on the phone. And this guy was, he was about 140. I was starving, living in my car. I'd gone down to like 90 kilos. So here, I see myself as this little guy going, where's my fucking money? He just stared at me as if he saw the devil.
Yeah.
And then he paused and then he ran. And I said, oh boy, he was like, say, 5 meters away. And I said, shit, I better chase him in case he gets a gun or a knife, because I've seen these guys, they carry guns around.
Yeah.
And I chased him to his office and I was just about to punch him. And he turns around and he goes, here's 10 grand. And I kind of paused and I just said, is this a message, God? Because I came here to kill this guy.
Yeah.
And I was going, man. And then when he said the 10 grand, he said, 10 grand, my brother. And I went, my brother now, what happened to cocksucker, motherfucking scumbag. And then I said, where's the rest of the money? And he goes, brother, I promise you, you will get all of it back. You won't believe it. When I left there, I was a bit puzzled. I didn't know what to think because I came here to kill the guy. And now I've got 10 grand cash. So it's bought me a bit of time. But you won't believe it. Every week after that, he called me. Where are you, Aleki? And I'll be like all the way the other side. I'm working in Bondi, Randwick, and he'd drive all the way there and give me a brown paper bag with 20 grand every week.
Wow.
And he goes, count your money. When I count it, and I just give him thumbs up and he's gone. And I was going, fuck. And I was the only one that was paid out of 200 people.
Wow.
And I was going, man, lucky I turned up to kill this guy or I wouldn't have my money. And so funny, I left there. From there, I won another contract in Rockhampton. So I said, you know what? I better go to Rockhampton and rebuild again. Rebuild. And I started working there. One thing I didn't say earlier is I gave up drinking.
Okay. Yep.
I had given up drinking for 2 years. So I wasn't drinking. So that was another factor that saved me from jumping off the cliff, because if I was drunk, I would have ran and jumped off.
Yeah.
So I got up to Rockhampton. I was doing work there as well. And at the same time, my ex-partner took me to court to get custody, to fight custody for my son. And I said, how the hell am I going to go to court? I don't have any money. So, even though my wife and I were separated, she still helped me, and we did the paperwork, and I went and represented myself. And after about 3 court sessions, I won.
Okay. Yeah, wow.
Yeah, I won custody, and my son stayed with me,
Beautiful.
And yeah, that was beautiful, with the circumstances of where I was at, and still won custody for my son. Man, that was a big achievement as well.
Yeah.
Because I thought, oh, no, I'd never win. They usually just give the kids back to their mum. So, man, that was a blessing as well. Oh,
absolutely.
I've just gone off screen. Yeah, and I was still doing work on myself, fitness, and also that also changed my view on food as well, because I had grown up with my dad killing animals, preparing them, and cooking them. But it was the last time, and I remember it, when I killed this little pig. This little pig in the garage to prepare it so we could have a spit roast for the workers on Saturday. It was the first time I fully connected.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I fully connected with this little animal, and I was going, man, I've killed so many animals without even giving thanks or blessing it. And it really hit home, and I've never killed another animal after that.
Oh, wow.
And prepared
That's
it.
beautiful.
Yeah. And I just went, man, who am I to take this life?
Yes.
When there's so much meat in the butchers and that, and here I am coming and taking another life, I'm just as bad as the people in the abattoirs, And also I did this meditation one morning when I was in Rockhampton, and I'll never forget it. Was my granddad showed up.
Wow.
And when I was a little kid, when I was 7, my granddad came and saw me in New Zealand. He came from Tonga to New Zealand to see me, because I didn't know that when I was born, I was given to him.
Oh, okay.
So I was brought up by my granddad before my mum brought me back into the family when they left to New Zealand. So my granddad came to see me just after he saw me, because I had my Holy Communion. He passed away.
Okay.
He passed away. And as a little kid, what came up for me in my meditation was I never got to mourn him.
Yes.
And everyone used to tell me how much he loved me and all of this, and I never believed them. It was just stories to me. But when I went on this journey, I was lying in his arm as a little boy, and I could smell the ripe bananas hung up on the corner. It was hung in our bedroom. These bananas, bunch of bananas hanging there I could even smell the dirt being blown underneath the door. It was so real, and I could feel the stubble on his beard, and I could smell his breath because he banana leaves.
Okay.
That was his tobacco, banana leaves. And then as soon as he told me that he loved me, I just burst into tears. I couldn't stop crying.
Yeah.
It was so real. And what came for me was I never knew how much he loved me.
Yeah.
And I never got a chance to mourn him when he died. I was just a little kid, and I remember his funeral. I was just playing with other kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, so stuff like that came up to me, and even now with doing more of the work, man, I just getting a lot of stuff and getting complete, and man, feel very blessed. Even now, I'm divorced again. I got divorced last year. We just agreed. We loved each other that much, but for myself, I see that after doing the work, that I loved myself that much.
Yep.
Because before I didn't.
Yes.
And it's not aligning with my wife's. But she works a lot on business. And I've been working a lot on my heart and on myself and healing.
Yes.
Especially when I divorced, that initiation to self, man, that really opened up my heart, and my heart's been open ever since.
Yeah.
It's been open no matter what. No matter what life throws at me, my heart is still open.
And I see that. I see that all the time in what you're doing, what you're putting out there, that how you're facilitating these meditations on behalf of other people, how you're just completely giving back. It's I see it, but I feel it. Like that's the other thing. The energy, like you're in the Gold Coast, I'm down in Melbourne, right? But I can sense every time I see something you've done, I sense the energy. It's a global universal energy that I pick up from you. And that's just
thank you,
brother.
About
you, man.
And that meditation, we've had it every Wednesday. It was just Watene and myself. We went and did a meditation. He said, hey, can we go do meditation on the beach? I just want to hear how your meditation went. All I did was just, we just went and sat in silence the first time. And then after that, I said, you know what? I've been called to do the meditation. So I did the meditation every Wednesday. Next month will be 12 months, and we've never cancelled a Wednesday.
Beautiful.
Rain or shine. Somehow it's rained before and rains after, and it's always dry and that. So I said, we've been blessed and we've been looked after.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And just the journey on myself. I love everyone. I love even people who used to, who I used to hate. I still love them too.
Yes.
Funny you should say this. I had one of my cousins FaceTime me last night. We'd been, he was one of the bullies. We were growing up. He used to bash me. And what happened, I think it was 2005, I went back to New Zealand to a wedding. And he thought that I was still that little kid he could bully. Big mistake. And also it was a big mistake for me, because I beat him up pretty bad at my cousin's wedding. You're going there to celebrate the wedding, not beat up your cousins, Yeah, it was really bad, he was still bullying, and I gave him free chances. Don't do it. Don't do it. he didn't stop, and it was funny. He was the first. He touched me first, and I just finished him off.
Yeah.
And I said, I've been away for so long. You still think I'm still that same little kid that you used to beat up all the time, and bully. So yeah, it was so funny. He not funny, but last night he just rang me like midnight. So we were FaceTiming around midnight. And he was asking forgiveness.
Wow.
He just said, can you forgive me for when I bullied you and cheated and lied and I did some bad stuff to you, And I just said, man, I love you, man. I said, I've always forgiven you. I love you. And he started crying.
Yeah.
Because it's been sitting with him for so long and he wasn't able to express it.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I felt very blessed, and no matter how late it is, man, that I don't worry about time, it's, if you got things to get off, man, I'm open to it, and that's made him complete as well. Just letting that go. Yeah.
Forgiveness two ways is such a powerful, amazing thing. So the ability to seek forgiveness for what you've done actually is you facing into and taking accountability for what you've done and saying, I'm owning this and now I'm going to seek forgiveness knowing that what I did was wrong. And it's an amazing thing. And there's a freeing element of it. Even if the other person chooses not to forgive you, it's okay. That's with them because that's something that they're holding. But you acknowledging what you've done. It's like, I'm just going to say, I'm sorry for what I've done. It's up to you whether you forgive me or not. But, asking for that is so powerful.
Yes, 100%. Because when I forgave my mum, I cried when my sisters told me she was diagnosed with cancer. This was like 6 months later. I cried with tears of joy that I had done the work and forgave her before knowing that, hey, she's dying now.
Yep.
And when she did pass, she came to me. It was about 2 hours later, I think, when she fully left her body. She came to me and she said that I love you and I know what you're doing. I know what you're doing. And she was also asking for forgiveness.
Wow.
She said, forgive me for how I treated you when you were young.
Yep.
And I just said, I forgive you. I love you and I forgive you. And I said, you doing that allowed me to go and find who I was.
Yes.
Because if she treated me well or treated me like my brothers, I wouldn't have gone looking for the man who I am today. So I blessed her for that. I said, I thank you. And then she showed up again when I was doing a women's workshop. She came with them and I felt goosebumps the whole day. And the workshops, I don't usually cry. I cried the whole day. But she was talking in my ear and still asking for forgiveness. And the thing that really triggered the crying was she said, I fully get what you're doing. And I understand what you're doing, the work that I'm doing. And as soon as she said, I'm proud of you,
wow,
I just cried. But she's never said anything good in my life. She's never said anything that good. And I just cried. And she was still asking for forgiveness as well. And I just said, man, I just had to keep reminding her that she was my biggest blessing.
Yes.
At the time, no. But looking back now, she was.
I know exactly where. Like, there's only a couple of years difference between us. I got a couple of years on you. But I often sit down and go, what would my life have been like if I knew about all the things I know now, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. And, I'm like, no, because what I now bring is that experience to the table. What
100%.
I had to go through all of those elements with my brothers, school friends, ex-fiancés, that whole alcoholic journey, the anger, all those things I had to go through to land exactly where I am now, to go, I can forgive everybody. I can seek forgiveness, but I now have this wisdom and understanding and just connection and unconditional love. I have no fear of death at all.
Oh, 100%.
In Unleash the Beast, I actually wanted to die.
Mm.
In Unleash the Beast, at the very start of breathwork, I laid there with my hands over my heart going, if I go now, I'm good. Just take away the pain. Like, I want to die. I can't do this pain any longer, right?
Mm.
And so I saw that as a rebirthing of that experience.
Yeah.
And out of the back of that, I'm completely rebirthed. But I had to have gone through that whole journey to get around. And look, there's still stuff that pops up now. Like if the beautiful Jackie says something about how I've done something, right? The little boy jumps in and jumps in and goes, well, fucking stop criticizing me, like everything else. And I realized that, there's parts of me that my dad was a perfectionist and my mum would always nitpick on things, and always been judgmental. So there's still parts now that come up, but I'm like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Like, and so you go, fuck. Shit, I thought I'd done the work. Fuck, more work to do. Right now, we're going to work on this one. We're going to work on this one. But I love being in this space now, and
100%.
And listening to your, challenging and hard and tragic, and at times really, near life-ending experience.
Mm.
But I see, again, as I said on the intro, like, I just see this beautiful, open, loving, just big-hearted man. And to help people understand, right? Aleki's 51. Like, Arnold Schwarzenegger would be embarrassed to stand beside Aleki naked. I'll fucking tell you that right now. Like, this man is a walking beast, right? And so when people talk about he was bullied as a younger, smaller guy, like, the only thing I'd want to do to Aleki is give him a hug, because I wouldn't want to ask for anything else. Because the man is just, but that shows where he's at. Like, you as you said, you're fully connected with your body, your food, the sky, the water.
Yes, 100%.
With the universe, the greater creator, and that all just comes through. You embody what it is now to be a conscious man, and people feed off you now, and people want that from you, and they feel that energy, and that's just beautiful, man.
Yeah, it was just exactly what you're saying. The more that I love myself, that fear of death is nowhere near me. Mm. It's like you're saying, I'm ready to go now. Like I wouldn't be trying to avoid or even having that fear that I saw in my mother's face when she was dying. And I'm fulfilled, It was when I wasn't conscious, I was always looking for something, looking or it's unaccomplished. I need to do this before I die, but man, I'm ready. If I have to go tomorrow, I'm there, and embracing it as well. I used to have a fear of it. But that, it's usually a fear because you're not ready.
Yes, correct.
But now I'm ready. If I'm ready to go and I know that I've done my job here, it's time to go, There's no right or wrong about it. It just is.
You only fear death if you're not choosing to live life.
100%. 100%.
And that's where I'm at now. I choose every day to live life, And if something was to happen, people will be able to look back and do, their great, eulogy that they want to do and whatever else. And people will go back and go, fuck, he had a good life. Like there might have been some challenges on the way through, but he ultimately ended up doing everything that he actually wanted to go and do. He's traveled the world. He's met beautiful people. He's, done amazing adventures. And that I'd be proud of what people would put out there to say, what I did. And when I just saw something, I said, fuck, I'm just going to go and do that. And I know my kids are proud of what I've done. Yes, they had a challenging upbringing because I was an ass of a dad, but I was a loving dad, but an ass at the same time.
Yes.
Right? And I can't remove the ass bit, but they've always known they've been loved.
100%.
And so, I think that's just where we're at. I know that you've been massively generous with your time. I love these conversations. I love the flow in the conversations. And
I could go on for days talking here. I think the greatest thing that I learned about myself was just how much just being that example of my journey has given permission to also my kids to choose that journey as well, because my son can't get enough hugs of me, eh?
Yeah,
he comes looking for me for a hug, and I say, wow, that's awesome, and he hugs his mum, his stepmom, his sisters. He hugs everybody now. So it's giving it. So it's just spreading. It's a beautiful tool to have. Just being hug machines.
I agree. I am going to sort of wrap this up a little bit, but what I'd love you to do, because we had a conversation before we jumped onto this podcast. Yes. And you told such a beautiful story about bringing a guy into your organization, and which talks to the culture of what you're building in your construction business now, about the guy that you just recently employed.
Yes.
And and about that culture of hug and how that works with us. So normally I'd ask to give a message about guys and what they want to do, but I think how you told that story, if you would do me the honor of relaying that story again,
100%.
And I think people will get a whole lot out of the power of what you're doing in your organization, how that's going to spread. So hand it over to you about the story of bringing this guy into your organization.
Yes. This guy, he's just come out of jail. And he's been looking for a job for about 6 months, and one of my good friends rang me up and said if I could give him a go, and I said absolutely. We'll give him a go. And he turned up to work. He's like the first one to turn up to work. He's got really good work ethic. He's just a good worker. And what he noticed, and he had to pull me up, he was going, Aleki, why do you guys hug all the time, And I said, our company, everyone hugs, Handshakes that's like doing business, This is like hugging, This is what we do to connect with each other. And so I rounded up all the boys and I said, come on. It was about 15 boys, and I asked them the question. I said, hey, look, Jeremiah here just wants to ask, why do we hug? And had one of the boys put his hand up and go, oh, because it gives us good energy. And I said, yes, that's correct. And then I said, what does the hug really mean to us? And they all look lost, because the boys who do know the hugs, they were at a different job. So this was like 1/3 of my boys here, and the other 2/3 was at, they're scattered on other jobs. And they were waiting, and I said, okay, I'll tell you. And I said, you know why we hug? And I said, it's practicing. We're looking at our brothers, we're looking into our brothers' eyes, and we acknowledge them, and then we hug them just to let them know that we got them, that we got their back. And that's why we hug. And I said, the more we keep doing this, first it's uncomfortable. And the more we keep doing this every day, it becomes comfortable. And the guys were going, yes, yes, yes. And then I said, what else is, what we're practicing is these hugs that we're practicing daily with everyone else, that we're gifting each other with, we are practicing so we could give it to our partners and our children, that we don't rob them of that hug that our dads never gave us. Yeah. Because we're also, these hugs that we're hugging each other, it's all the hugs our dads never gave us. So when you go home today, go hug your mum and dad, because grandpa never hugged them. So these hugs that we're practicing every day, we're breaking a cycle. We're breaking a cycle that's been passed down through generations of that connection, and also that love that we're passing in a hug. And the boys love it now. Everyone who comes in, they hug them. We've had other people, this is a building site where masculinity, the egos are thriving, they run riot, with, these macho egos on site. And we had one tradie yell out, oh, look at those poofters, and the men, they just laughed. They just said, hey, come, we want to give you a hug too. You need it more than us. So come on, we'll give you a hug. So this is the attitude of the guys, it's love every day. We talk love, and I've never felt the energy of the men that we have right now. Man, just feeling the energy of the hugs every day that we get, and also the hugs when we finish work.
Yes.
Everyone's hugging when they finish work, hey, we'll see you tomorrow, and they hug each other. That's the stuff they're going to pass on to their children.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's thank you, man. That's beautiful. And the other element on that one, and I want to just loop back into what you said about the surfer and the guy. None of those guys know whether they'll have a chance to have hugged that person again, because you don't know what's going to happen to that person on the way home. And heaven forbid something happened.
100%.
But they could go home and say, at least I know I hugged and said goodbye.
Yes.
Or I hugged and I saw them in the morning before they went out on site, and so, that in that same thing, that person knew that they were loved if something happened to them. And the person that gave the hug I know I gave them love if something happened to them. And everyone gets to finish, wherever our life finishes, on that beautiful note of knowing I knew that the point of time I died, that I was loved. And that's
100%.
And that's such a beautiful thing that you're actually doing. It's so heart rendering, and, just my heart just opens up again, just hearing that, you've got this culture in this construction organization, which we know can be quite toxic. So thank you, Aleki.
Thank you.
I knew this was going to be a beautiful, beautiful chat. I knew that you'd be very open and transparent about, your journey, where you'd been. I said it a couple of times, I love where you're at. I'm privileged and honored to have, come across you in my life. A lot of gratitude that you're there. I know at any point in time, you're a phone call away and you'd have my back. Same for me, for you. And this is just, I was super excited when you said, yes, brother, you would come on and have this chat with me.
Oh, man, I feel very blessed, just crossing paths and also the invitation as well, because it's allowed me to share, because I know that the power of sharing, someone will get impacted by this. So I feel very blessed for the invitation.
My honor, man. You have an absolute beautiful day, which I know you will, because you're living every minute of it. So again, thanks for coming on board. And as I said, have a beautiful day, and we'll definitely chat again soon. Thanks, man.
100%. Love you, brother. Thank you.
Love you too.
Okay. Thank you.
So that was the open-hearted, beautiful Aleki. What an amazing conversation. Often, these chats would be 30, 40 minutes. This has definitely gone over that, but there's no way I was holding this conversation back because, as you've seen, he's just an amazing man who's in a beautiful space, and to run a construction company, but having, a whole lot of love around that is awesome. And that's just projecting out to the universe. And, we all feel the love around that for doing that. So I'd like to thank you for coming on board. So that's a wrap now for episode 31 of the Unearthed Man podcast. As you know, you can find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, or Facebook. Sending you much love and peace. This is Milvo.